Firstly, a very warm welcome to the TEQ Connect session on leveraging events. Thank you all for joining us today. I hope this is the start of further conversations for you and connection into some great opportunities around events within your cities and regions. My name is Scott Healey from the Destination Events team at Tourism and Events Queensland, and I'll be hosting today's session. Today is really simple. TEQ works with a large range of stakeholders to bring events to Queensland, but the real value is what happens around them. Events don't just fill stadiums, streets or parks. They bring people into your towns, your regions and your businesses. And there's opportunity to work with these people before, during and after the event. You don't need to run an event to benefit from it. You just need to be part of the experience. Before we begin, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we meet today and recognise their continuing connection to land, waters, culture and community. We pay our respect to elders past and present, and we value and respect Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander cultures in all that we do. That connection to culture and place is also essential to why events matter today, and we'll come back to that theme across the session. So just a quick run through on how we'll spend our time today. First, I'll hand over to Richard Clark, Group Executive Events at TEQ, to briefly set the scene from a state perspective as to why events matter, as well as demonstrating the value of leveraging events. We'll then hear some practical case studies from two leaders in their fields, a destination perspective led by Demelza Fellows from the Brisbane Economic Development Agency, and a regional perspective from Kate Scott at Toowoomba Regional Council. We'll then finish with some key takeaways you can apply straight away in your operations, followed by a Q&A. This webinar is being recorded and will be available for download after the session. And we'll also have time at the end of today for any questions. So please use the Q&A function as we will come back to these. When people come to an event, they expect to spend money. Leveraging isn't about charging more at the gate. It's about creating multiple touch points where visitors can engage, explore and spend across the destination. I'm pleased to introduce Richard Clark, Group Executive Events at Tourism and Events Queensland. Richard leads TEQ's events portfolio and plays a key role in shaping how events drive visitation, dispersal and long-term value for Queensland. Today, Richard will speak to why events matter for Queensland's visitor economy and how we can move beyond attracting visitors to turning visitation into meaningful economic and community value. Over to you, Richard.
Thank you again for all of you joining us today. Hope whatever part of Queensland you're coming from is a little nicer than what we've got in Brisbane here today, but always a good day when we get to talk about events. And today you're going to hear from some of the best that we host in Queensland. As Scott said, I'd just like to give a little bit of an overview of why events are important to Queensland and around TEQ's approach to events. Over the last 18 months or so, we've been embarking on a bit of a change of strategy journey at TEQ, moving from what was a largely reactive approach to supporting events that came to us to looking at how we curate our events calendar and make sure that it is really delivering for Queensland. So we've embarked on a new vision to curate a distinctively Queensland calendar of nationally and internationally significant events, delivering unforgettable experiences around visitation, economic growth and impact. With the key word there really being curate, and that is an intentional approach to how we develop our events calendar. And that's really been underpinned by the prioritisation of events under Destination 2045 and the ambitious goal of curating a $4 billion events calendar by 2045. That is a leisure events. On top of that, there's an additional $2 billion target for business events by 2045. And to put that in perspective, our current events calendar has a value of around $1.1 billion. So while it's a long runway to work with, it's an ambitious goal, which we're excited to build towards. That goal is across the new mega and strategic events part, TEQ's major events and the homegrown events program, which will combine towards that goal of a $4 billion calendar. Under our revised strategy, how we evaluate and value events is contribution to Queensland's economy, the attraction of visitors to Queensland. Those are our two primary assessment criteria. But then we also look at, do the events enhance Queensland's profile, and foster real community pride in Queensland. And that comes back to, in the vision, being distinctively Queensland in terms of our calendar of events. So we look at how they contribute to culture. How does the event hold a unique story within Queensland's culture and spirit at their heart? Does it contribute to community, connecting people to make Queensland's communities come alive? Does it celebrate our destination? Queensland has a diverse and epic stage that is rich with natural wonder, and the difference probably for Queensland over other states in terms of how they approach investment is we have a truly decentralised approach. So rather than being capital city focused, although events in Brisbane and southeast Queensland do have an important role in our calendar, we are looking to develop a balanced calendar which is highly represented in the regions as well. And experiences. What are the life-enhancing experiences that are grounded in Queensland? So what does that look like currently? So TEQ supports over 160 events in Queensland, and that is growing day by day. 3.7 million people attended TEQ-supported leisure events. Almost 600,000 visitors from outside Queensland, so showing the impact for the visitor economy, generating 4.7 million visitor nights across the state. Delivered 1.25 billion in direct and incremental economic impact, and TEQ's investment across our major and homegrown portfolios delivered an ROI of $28 for every $1 invested. So events are a growing and essential component of the visitor economy and strategically play a really important part in telling Queensland's story. I'll now hand you back to Scott to introduce our next speaker.
Thank you, Richard, for clearly articulating the role events play in delivering long-term value for Queensland's visitor economy. Events are most powerful when they are intentionally leveraged to convert visitation into increased yield, longer stays, and broader regional and community benefits, rather than just focusing solely on attendance alone. And I think your last slide has showed the size of the pie that we are all lucky to work with. So thank you again for that. As part of TEQ Connect, we've partnered with Toowoomba Regional Council and Brisbane Economic Development Agency to present what leveraging looks like at a destination and regional level. Our first guest speaker is Demelza Fellows, Head of Event Partnerships and Experience at BEDA. For those who aren't familiar with BEDA, they are the organisation responsible for driving Brisbane's economy through tourism, events, investment and business growth, and are Brisbane's regional tourism organisation. They work with partners across government and industry to attract, develop and leverage major events. So when Brisbane hosts a major event, BEDA's role goes well beyond marketing the event itself. From a destination perspective, the core question is always, how do we turn an event into a citywide experience? Today, Demelza will share practical insights from NRL Magic Round and the Brisbane International Military Tattoo. Demelza, over to you.
Thank you, Scott, and nice to be here sharing this time with all of you, and thanks for hosting us, TEQ. I'm Demelza, hi. As Scott mentioned, I am here representing BEDA as sort of the Greater Brisbane Region's RTO, but in particular I am in the events portfolio. And our work is to, through events, drive that sustainable economic activity for the city, and particularly through the attraction and materialisation of business and major events. And they are here to encourage visitors to the city and locals to engage with events so that they may stay, spend and play in the city and the regions, to supercharge local business and also elevate Brisbane's profile as a global event city. With us, and just to understand the flow, once our acquisition teams have secured the events or developed that calendar of event partnerships, particularly in partnership with TEQ a lot of the time, we then handed the events over to our team in the event partnerships and experiences portfolio. And our purpose is to leverage the event partnerships so that they may amplify the destination in the marketing phase, that pre-arrival and consideration phase. So making sure that Brisbane and its features exist there in the decision-making process for the event attendee. And then once the event comes to town, in partnership with industry, we like to generate city vibrancy by creating moments of impact along the touch points of the guest journey. So thinking about every part of engagement that a guest, an event attendee will have with the city, that will enhance their experience, stimulate that increased spend or dispersal, and also establish our reputation in Brisbane as the most welcoming city in the world. It's one of our huge aspirations to ensure that how guests feel and how the event makes them feel is one of the core elements of their memory, and that return on investment they experience for coming to the event. We know that each step of the guest journey from pre-arrival through to departure point is an opportunity to engage with the guest, bring the event to life, but also enable that spending, that engagement with local business, creating relationships that deepen the destination brand through the experience. So I'm going to focus a little bit around the experiential component of city activation and festivalisation. We did a little bit of work on why, we were really interrogating why we invest in this leveraging, why it's important to festivalise and activate the city. And we learned through some global research that one of the reasons is that enhanced visitor experience and dwell time through events, through things such as pop-up activations, roaming performers, themed installations, or even interactive tech, engage visitors beyond the event venue, and that immersive city experiences can encourage longer stays, a further exploration across the city, and ultimately increase spend across diverse sectors. So as Richard mentioned, people know they're going to spend, and we want them to spend on retail, food, bev, experience, and even something, different, a haircut, or areas that they didn't even think they were going to stumble on across Brisbane. Increase footfall to key precincts. So when you festivalise and activate the city, strategically place signage and activations that create event trails, draw foot traffic to underutilised or high potential precincts that can promote that economic dispersion or visitor spend and share them across the suburb to increase that exploration and surprise and delight. So we are a big precinct city here in Brisbane, Howard Smith Wharves, Fortitude Valley, South Bank Parklands, Fish Lane. We want people to know more about Brisbane when they're here, rather than perhaps just coming in, seeing Suncorp and leaving, or coming in, seeing QPAC and leaving. This city has so much to offer, and from a destination perspective, we want them to know and be surprised and delighted. That again also moves into this emotional engagement with the city brand. We like to ensure that venues are dressed up and there's storytelling through street banners or city light projections and public art that reinforce the identity of Brisbane as that vibrant and welcoming city, but also engage the guest and the attendee to see themselves in the city, see the event come to life and why they're recognised by the way the city is representing. It builds that equity and positive sentiment, and also hopefully leading to return visitation and word of mouth advocacy moving forward. We also know that people feel most welcome when they've got barrierless and seamless wayfinding around the city, so that ability for them to be able to find what they need and feel familiar in an unfamiliar zone is really important for us. So a couple of whole of city takeovers that we can celebrate today, and I want to whiz through as quick as I can so you can hear from everybody else. One of them obviously is an iconic and signature event of ours, Magic Round Brisbane, that does turn the city into one massive big festival, and that's been a really intentional investment beyond the content itself. In 2025, we had 149,000 fans that experienced the Magic Round atmosphere in and out of stadium and contributed sort of 48 million to the economy, which is really, really important for those two key strategic impact factors. We also wanted to make sure that there was no doubt for the fans that they knew that Brisbane was the home of Magic Round, and that also that they were a part of us by coming here to experience it. We had airport terminal activations around baggage carousel dressing and photo moments for people to feel that moment of arrival and feel instantly impacted, and screens and imagery. Precinct activations, really fantastic to see that beyond the BEDA engagement industry created many events in their own precincts, or they put on different music entertainers and just found ways for people to feel the vibrancy beyond the stadium and feel that atmospheric integration. That picture on screen is what South Bank Parklands put on, a snag fest. Yes, it was a sausage sizzle turned into a music and live viewing and fan engagement piece, which was really fantastic. We had a sideline lounge at Queen Street Mall. There was Queen's Wharf, Brisbane held a Fanland, which will be back again this year. And of course, Caxton Street closure to create that dwell zone and experience and feel like something was really memorable and engaged and activated. We also created an event trail across the city into retail and throughout different precincts. we had these 10 interactive event cubes that held destination branding pointing to our website and the Visit Brisbane and Explore Brisbane pages, where all of our industry suppliers and our friends and family across Brisbane have their ATDW listed events or offerings. So we had that there with QR codes, and the Visit Brisbane enabled with event co-branding from the partnership. So we're leveraging the event and our own destination content to encourage people to see, oh, I know those stripes, that's Magic Round stripes. What's this? Explore. Where else can I find a beer? What else is on? And then our industry themselves having those free listings up, or their deals, or pointing them to other things that they can see and do across town. We had sort of 64 venues activated with bunting across town, again, just creating that carnival atmosphere and encouraging people to really engage with the event. Just to build on this, before I move on quickly from Magic Round, we also activated across spring summer in a non-traditional event period to bundle together a host of events. So we had the Brisbane International, PGA Golf, all these ones that were our summer of sport, the Ashes, and we did a similar event trail and activation around this concept of summer of sport. So when one event may not be enough to take over the entire city, we found what was happening in the calendar and created the same kind of energy around connection through the summer of sport to engage people and say, you're here in Brisbane, Brisbane's about sport, get amongst it, get up and about, and we're happy to see you, and go and explore. Now onto the Royal Edinburgh Military Tattoo. It was a cultural stadium event, so something a little bit different for what people traditionally visit Brisbane around, and event attendees coming in that wouldn't normally roam our city or perhaps even attend Suncorp Stadium. So the guest experience and that welcome was really critical to not only capture that special moment in history, but also to engage with new advocates for Brisbane and patrons who may need more mobility or have come a long way to see the show. In the consideration phase, we made sure that through the event partnership with their EDMs and their database targeting, that we had a lot of information around that accessibility, how to get around, things to see and do, which, you know, were those same reasons ATDW is such an important feature for this for all of you, even making sure that different language was utilised. Some of the different things that we did for Military Tattoo that were over and above what we would normally do for something like Magic Round. We did a stakeholder engagement activity where we invited industry to develop integrated menus and offerings for the military tattoo guests on arrival that would capitalise on the weekend. So we had Scottish food producers and Queensland food producers, and we brought executive chefs in together for a workshop, and they co-created menus that had, yes, we had haggis and langoustine and these kind of things mixed in with beautiful Queensland produce, Moreton Bay bugs and mangoes and so forth to co-create menus. And then they went into the industry and venues, and because it was something different where we knew they needed early seating times because the show started at 7:30, older population, they had these early sittings with these Scottish Queensland inspired menus just to, again, leverage and activate the event, and also to bring industry up and make them feel engaged around this big event that was coming to town. We do a few of these other kind of stakeholder events, such as our concierge briefings and events where we like to make sure that when we have the events in town, our operators are building their activity around, and that our concierges know what's going on across town. And finally, we had introduced in for ATE and our Magic May in 2025 an event volunteer program that was really important to enable this wayfinding and guest experience across town and increase that dispersal, but also help to understand the destination's connectivity. And we activated this again for Royal Edinburgh Military Tattoo. We're slowly building out in industry some young people who are super event engaged and want to be able to create that seamless experience, drive people through town, make sure that they can find the stadium easily, help through if they have mobility issues, and just a friendly face to make sure they know that Brisbane is that welcoming city that we promised and that we are trying to establish, again, for that post-event feeling that they leave and they know they had a sensational time, it was money well spent, and that they'll be back for more and more, and ultimately ensuring that repeat visitation and that destination profile. Fun fact, since we really made an intentional focus on increasing our activation and leveraging of the city and bringing industry along, we've had a 46% increase in the growth of our event portfolio and the ROI. So Richard showed you just how meaningful events are to the Queensland economy, but we've been able to quantify that by just a small increase in effort and energy and bringing industry into the relationship. We've absolutely seen the events excel beyond our expectations, which is always wonderful. So thank you so much for your time, and thank you, Scott.
What stood out is how Brisbane treats major events as citywide experiences, not just ticketed moments, using predictable visitor behaviour to extend stays, activate precincts, and drive spend beyond the venue. Whether it's Magic Round or the military tattoo, the common thread is intention, thinking before, during, and after, and choreographing the experience so the whole city works together. That's the destination lesson. When you understand why people are coming and how they behave, events become trip drivers, not just one-off nights. Fans travelling in groups stay multiple nights and actively looking for things to do beyond the game. That predictability is valuable for accommodation providers, for example. Knowing guest behaviour lets hotels, apartments and hosts design offers that extend stays and increase spend. You could even encourage staff to dress in their favourite team jersey to get behind the event. This is what a success looks like when an event extends beyond the stadium. The whole city feels part of it. So thanks again, Demelza. What you've just heard is leveraging at a capital city scale. Now we're shifting to a regional perspective, showing that those same principles work just as powerfully outside major cities. I'm really pleased to introduce Kate Scott, Principal Tourism and Events at Toowoomba Regional Council. TRC plays a hands-on role in developing, owning and delivering major events for the region, working closely with local businesses, the community and industry partners to drive visitation and economic outcomes. At the heart of that work, they are custodians of one of Queensland's most iconic and award-winning regional events, the Toowoomba Carnival of Flowers. The Carnival is owned and operated by Toowoomba Regional Council and has grown into a multi-week festival that combines floral displays, parades, food, music and community events across the city. It's nationally recognised, has taken out Queensland Tourism Awards and continues to be a major driver of visitation and economic impact for the region. Kate is going to take us through how Toowoomba uses the Carnival of Flowers to enhance the event. Over to you, Kate.
Appreciate the opportunity to be with everyone today. I'm just going to press all the right buttons and we'll get going. I'll talk a little bit about Toowoomba Carnival of Flowers. Last year, we were able to achieve 511,000 attendees over the program. So the program, we focus in on the weekends. Toowoomba has a very high traction rate with other industries taking up accommodation during the week. So at our last strategic point, we actually looked at how we can activate the weekends to really make sure that our overnight, and regional dispersion can actually happen to the best of its ability. What we also look at is our overnight stays, and so we actually did 132,000 overnight stays last year, so that was pretty cool to be able to achieve that. What we look at, we find that ebbs and flows year on year. We don't always have an increase in that. We actually find that we've got things that kind of go up and down for us, and one year we'll have really increase in our overnight stays. The next year we'll actually have an increase in our day trippers. So what happened last year, we had 51,000 day trippers come through as well. So we had a really high growth in our day trippers. So that's a bit of an overview of what Toowoomba Carnival of Flowers is for anyone that hasn't been able to come to us in the last couple of years and check us out. What we really look at when we look at the programming from a council point of view is how we can make sure we showcase our region to the best of our ability. So we have probably about a third of the program of events that's on our website is actually developed by council, and the rest is done by the community. So council takes on things like Weekend Table, where we actually partner with different precincts, different regional locations. It could be wedding venues, it could be restaurants, it could be tour locations, and we actually get them to do an event. So we say, what kind of event do you want to put on? Do your pricing, do your time of the day, but we're going to market it with you. And so then it becomes an official part of the event program. This was kicked off last year officially, and it went gangbusters, and we pretty much had just about everything sold out. So that push for discovering local connected to the event was really great for us. And I suppose when you think about Toowoomba Carnival of Flowers, you might think about private gardens and public garden spaces, and this is a way for us to embed those flower moments outside of those. We also have a 2-day food festival that we have in our program. That festival has probably about 50 to 60% local food and drink providers, and the rest we bring in. We were really careful. We don't want to replicate our main street 500 metres up the road on the hill in a venue. So we want to actually make sure there's something for locals. So in the past, we've had Byron Bay Donuts, and people know that the only time they'll get Byron Bay Donuts in our region is by coming to that event. So things like that we can become trend-based, and so the locals love it, but then also we've got local loves in that side as well. So that's really popular. We do foodie tours, and that can be sort of anything from a classy pub crawl that we do on a Sunday afternoon, and that takes people on a guided tour around town. So what we do that for is to pretty much make sure people have a little taste of everything, and then they can go, we really liked that second place. Let's go back and actually spend a night there, and let's come back and explore the region a little bit more. In looking at a wider aspect of our tours, we actually do gardening tours in our public parks. We've got one that we do as a twilight. So we specifically do it as a twilight tour because we want to connect people to bed nights. So if we do something that starts at 5:30, we know that people can go to a tour for an hour and a half, and then go off and have dinner, stay the night. And so we're extending that stay, and we're giving people reasons to come and have a really big full day as part of our programming. Another one that is really driving spend for us is a legacy piece out of COVID that we loved at the time, and we weren't sure if it was going to continue, and that's TR Treats. So what that is Toowoomba Region Eats, and we developed this through COVID, and we put out to the 300 plus places around our entire LGA that you can buy food and drinks at, and said, can you develop something up that's between $10 to $25, and then put that on as a special just during the carnival dates, and not do it outside of those dates. It's something specifically just for carnival, and we do the marketing. So we do a full website, we do a little DL brochure that we put out across all the venues, restaurants, we do it at motels. We put that out across all the touch points, pretty much where you can get the event program as well. So what that has done, it started off, I think we had about 30 start, and we've have roughly about probably 50 to 60 every year that come back into the program. And as you can see on the screen, last year we had someone that was doing a coffee deal and with a little posy of flowers. We have people that do platters for dinner. We do desserts. We do breakfast. A lot of our multicultural meals come through there with like a floral flavour to it. So it's really diverse, and it's really been an absolute goldmine for us to actually getting people out and about and exploring our region. So from a council point of view, it's really been gold for us. And from an events point of view, it's putting our logo and our brand in 50 to 60 venues across the region, which is also just magic for us to get that connection point. Local, obviously, Toowoomba Carnival of Flowers is owned by council, so we are very local focused, making sure that we can promote our locals at every point. We actually have 2 parks that are the feature floral displays, and we have tents in those parks, and we advocate every year that everything that we put in those tents when it comes to music is 100% local. So we actually advertise and we promote out to the locals and say, hey, we want you to showcase how good you are to all our visitors. And so then we schedule everyone in for the full programming to actually have live entertainment in the park in 2 locations. We've been dedicating that live 100% local program for 5 years now, and it's going gangbusters, and we have a wait list every year for people wanting to go into that. For Toowoomba Carnival of Flowers, from the council point of view, we deal with, I think last year there was 134 suppliers to actually deliver the event, and we achieved 89% local vendors across that. So that's something that we really look at, how we can have that local touch point, our dollars staying local as much as we can, but there are certain things that we can't procure locally, like a Ferris wheel that comes in. We don't have a local Ferris wheel, so we have to do an outside spend. But we do work really hard to look at how we can actually leverage every single supplier or connection that they've got to keep dollars in our town. That leads into partnerships. So we really look at how we can, disperse different business logos, their skills and their products into our events every time we can. So whether it be a local catering company doing demonstrations at our food festival, local artists doing workshops, we pay the artist and then they do a free workshop in the park, or it might be that we need cups. And so we talk to a local vendor and say, hey, we need cups. Can we promote your business at those cups? Or pizza boxes? Can we put your pizza boxes out? So we've got that distribution happening. We also, if we've got something fun and funky that's happening or something that's trendy that we can actually have within our wider tourism region. So if we touch base into the Queensland country region, we can then pull in friends like the Truffle Discovery Centre. And what we do there and why we have them, we want people to discover them at our event and just talk about how they discovered this something cool, fun, or something that they want to come back to at our event. And then that means that they can then go and explore into Stanthorpe and the Granite Belt and have some more traction time. But the key point is they've discovered it through our event. So we know when they're talking to their friends and families, when they talk about our event, you're going to come and discover something new, which is really important. And it's sort of a bit of a linchpin for us to be able to continue on with new trends. Another thing that we do is we actually put out a group rates book. So what we do is we do all the hard work for anyone that does groups coming to town. So tour operators that come into town that want to have their clients in our town, we'll actually do a list of where's group friendly, whether it be you can actually have enough toilets, you can have coach booking parking out the front, you can have a menu that's quick and varied, or simply things like there's actually a restaurant at the accommodation that's locally provided. Things like this that we do really helps out those providers. In addition to that, it's not just accommodation and meals that we help groups out with. We also extend it out to, we know that bus drivers have certain hours that they have to limit to during the day. So can we actually can a local tour operator pick up your clients and actually take them on for you, and you sit down and enjoy the tour with them? So we're not extending out those hours. Things like that is how we try and make things easier for everyone coming to town and other fellow tourism operators. One of the things that's really kicked off for us recently is Floral Friday. So the very first day of Carnival is a Friday. So we have actually embedded that across the whole city and the region. So we put the call out and tell everyone that we want them to dress up in their prettiest dress, make sure that everything and anything that can be floral is floral. On the screen, you'll see there's a chemist, there's a cafe, and there's a kindy. And so we drive around town and you'll see everyone wearing floral. You'll have floral at the front of shops. Last year, we even had tradies driving around in their Hawaiian shirts and hanging off their caps. So, it's something that every single business can actually lean into in a big way or a little way. And then the great thing that we had from that was the amount of social media connection to the event. Like, it was probably the biggest we've ever had before. So this is a way that we can make sure that people feel that it's their carnival. It's not council's carnival. It's not the mayor's carnival. It is Toowoomba's carnival. So these are the kind of ways that they can really feel that they're connected and they're part of it. Another thing that we've done recently that I wanted to include, just as a bit of a curveball, over COVID, we saw that everyone was buying puppies and dogs, and now everyone's got these 5 and 6-year-old pampered pooches that are really part of everyone's family. So, and we saw these people coming through the parks with their dogs, and we thought, hang on, this is a whole area that we're not leaning into. So what we actually did last year was had a paw parade, and we had 200 pooches register to actually be in parade, but we had 4,000 people turn up. So we probably had close to 1,000 dogs on site. And so what we actually did is this gave us an ability to have people out in the parks enjoying nature, which is one of the core pieces of KPIs that we have of Toowoomba Carnival of Flowers, is getting people to enjoy our natural beauty. And what we were able to do then is connect to a whole set of suppliers that we've never been able to connect the event to in the past. So things like the local rescue group, we've got RSPCA, vets, and pet supply companies have all now connected to the event and are benefiting from the event. So we're looking at ways that we can embed different aspects of society and trends into how we can actually make it more connected for Carnival. So I suppose just a couple of things that I've worked with other groups when they've asked me how they can, when I've got a business sitting in front of me asking me how they can be part of Carnival. One of the biggest things is I'm like, what are your skills, what's your products, and how can you lean that into either the theme of the event, or is there a problem or gap that you can actually fix for the event organisers or the guests? So when you're looking at leveraging, that's something that, is the quickest thing to do. Like, ask yourself that question and then get creative with the answers. Some of the things that we've also done is talking to the Visitor Information Centre. So ask them, what are the main questions that you get when visitors come to town during events? So is it that they want to know where a child-friendly dinner option is? Where's the best coffee in town? Are there any local tours that I can do? One we get every year is, I've got a flat tire here at the motel. Is there someone that can actually come here and fix it for me? Or think something like, people really want to embed locally. So where are the shops that people can find all the local pieces in that are made locally, to your point? And the old golden nugget is, I've forgotten my phone charger. Where can I buy one? That happens probably just about daily for us. Something that I've talked to about already is really leaning into the event focus or the theme. We've got Carnival, which equals flowers, and it's being outside. So the chemists really stock up on hay fever and sunburn solutions. It's things like this that you normally wouldn't connect to events, but this is how, different shops actually can lean into making sure that they're, being part of the solutions and part of the event story. One of my favourite things is a hairdresser actually does an event survival kit. So they put out like the little travel kits of sunscreen, hand sanitizer, Band-Aids, Panadol and Berocca. And, those kind of things that you wouldn't think of a hairdresser connecting to an event, but it's one way that they get people in the door, and they might find that they've got their favourite shampoo there, so they can buy that while they're in town. So there's simple things like that happen. And I suppose something that Demelza also talked about is making sure your ATDW and your Google listings are up to date and current. It's amazing when you can go through and look at a Google listing and you see it hasn't been updated for 5 years. A lot of people really question if it's current. So just go in, make sure everything's updated, resave it, so when people are looking, they can see that it's fresh and it's current. And then also, depending where you are, make sure there's a sign out the front that says that you're open or that you've got a special on. Make sure that you've ramped up your social media posting, that you've actually got that happening before, during and after. You don't have to do paid. You can actually just do all organic and tag in the event. So you've got really, whether it's a feature, a late checkout or something that you're doing, really make sure that you're letting everyone know about it. And make sure, I suppose the biggest thing is let know your current clients what you do as well, connecting to the event, whether that's your EDM or through socials. Let them know what you are doing especially for that event, because they're your biggest advocates, because they already know you and the quality of your business, and they'll go and tell all their friends and family about it. Some other things that we look at when it comes to, the local factor when it's actually, happening is talk to event organisers. So every year we'll have a few people that reach out to us and go, hey, we just wanted to check in because we weren't sure if you knew about this, this and this, or we can do this, this and this. And that is so helpful. We don't have time to go out and make sure we know absolutely everything about everyone's business. So reaching out to your local event organisers and saying, just wanted to make sure that you knew that we did this, this and this, is really, really valuable, and it's probably the best time saving for you and them. Something else that works really well here in Toowoomba is hunting as a pack. So we've got some people that actually decorate their shop fronts and they become an attraction themselves. So everyone's coming along and doing their selfies out the front of these shops because a group have done it, in theme and in sync themselves. So an area of town that you wouldn't normally go to, or some products like, a solicitor, an accountant, they're actually theming their fronts of their shops up. So it's becoming an attraction, and then they're getting their logos incorporated in the exposure of the event. Things that have also worked really well is including little locally made products with tickets or with the bookings. So that could be something that costs the supplier $1 or $2, a sample product. You then add that onto the ticket price, and then you're including that. So people are taking home an extra piece of local. That's really working well for a number of our connected operators. And another big thing that we've worked with here in Toowoomba, when we don't have the scope or the capacity with certain suppliers, businesses, we actually look at how we can subcontract. So those local businesses subcontracting with metro or bigger operators outside of region to actually have the capacity or scope delivered locally. So that then keeps their local connection, builds skills for the local businesses and networks, and it gets us the capacity that we need. So that's something that a lot of, some local areas might need to look at, or see if you've got suppliers that are keen in doing that. And just to close off, because I could probably talk about this all day, is just engage early and collaborate locally. Hunt as a pack where you can. And that's probably it. Thanks so much, Scott.
Thanks, Kate. That was amazing, those clear and practical examples of what leveraging looks like in Toowoomba. What stood out for me is how the Carnival of Flowers has been deliberately growing beyond a single event into a multi-week whole of city experience. One that definitely encourages people to arrive earlier, stay longer, explore more, and come back. A big part of that success is the focus on local identity by putting local food, music, businesses, and community at the centre. The carnival feels authentic, and that authenticity is what drives visitor spend and economic benefit back into the region. We also saw how important easy participation is. Initiatives like Floral Friday make it simple for businesses of all sizes to get involved, creating visible momentum across the city without requiring big budgets. Your examples reinforce that leveraging doesn't need to be complex. It's about being intentional, understanding why people are coming, how they behave, and then thinking before, during, and after the event. This is the real regional advantage: strong story of place, close collaboration, and clear local offers working together to turn an event into long-term value for the destination. So thank you again, Kate. We're going to start the Q&A shortly, so drop any questions you might have into that section. But before we do, I just want to reflect on what we've just covered. So we've heard from Brisbane through to Toowoomba that leveraging events work at every scale, whether it's a major blockbuster event in the CBD or an iconic regional festival. The principles are the same. The difference isn't budget or size, it's intention. Demelza showed us how Brisbane treats major events as citywide experiences, using predictable visitor behaviour to extend stays, activate precincts, and drive spend beyond the venue. Kate then showed us how those same principles apply in a regional context, grounding the event in local identity, making participation easy, and working together to turn a single event into weeks of visitation, dispersal, and flow-on benefit for local businesses and the community. With that in mind, let's step back for a moment and pull out a few key takeaways, regardless of your region, the size of your event, or the business you operate. First, events are a lever, not just a moment. Events don't just fill venues or activate a weekend, they bring people into destinations. The real value comes from what you do with that visitation, how you extend stays, increase spend, and create reasons for people to return. Second, you don't need to run the event to benefit from it. Leveraging isn't about owning the event, it's about participation. Any business, precinct, or region can play a role by creating experiences around the event, before people arrive, while they're there, and after they leave. Thirdly, strong events tell a clear story of place. The examples we've seen today work because they're grounded in local identity, culture, community, and destination. When an event reflects where it happens, it's easier for visitors to connect emotionally, stay longer, and come back. And if there's one simple framework, it's this: think before, during, and after. Before the event, how are you getting on the visitor's radar early? How are you influencing planning decisions? Where people stay, how long they stay, what else they do while they're there. During the event, how are you enhancing the experience while visitors are on the ground, making it easy to navigate, discover, spend time and money, and feel part of the place? And then after the event, what happens next? How do you turn a first-time visit into a second and third one? How do you stay connected and give people a reason to return? Another key takeaway is that different events play different roles, but the opportunity is always there. A major sporting event creates different behaviours to a food festival or a regional cultural event, but every event brings visitors, and every visitor creates leverage opportunities if you understand how they travel and what they value. And finally, collaboration multiplies impact. The strongest outcomes consistently come from businesses, precincts, and partners working together. Simple joint offers, shared activation, and whole of place thinking will almost always outperform going it alone. So the message is straightforward. Events bring people, leveraging events is what keeps them, staying longer, spending more, and coming back. So we're going to head into the Q&A now, and thank you to all that have sent through some questions. Got Demelza and Kate back online. So we'll start with one from Outback Queensland, which is similar to one we also had from someone on the Sunshine Coast that I'll ask of Demelza. What are some practical tips for event organisers to encourage local tourism businesses and experiences to know their event is on? And in turn, what are some cost and time efficient ways to leverage events in my business?
Thanks, Scott, and great question. The interesting thing when we look at the leveraging of events, particularly from the event organiser's perspective, is they're so focused and obsessed on the event and the detail within the event and selling the tickets to the event and getting the people into the region. So from the event organizer's perspective, their ability to have a relationship with the city and using either the visitor information centre, if that's the central connector to industry, or the RTO, who have the relationships with the operators across the city. Like, it's hard for them to find time and nous, particularly if they're coming into town, to meet and know everybody, the who's in the zoo, and find time to meet the business chambers or the what have you. So I think having a centralised focus of knowing where their local events person in council is, or their industry connector, so that that message can be dispersed from the people who know the city, and that the digital assets that they might be able to provide, or the downstream rights. And then the other ability also is for the like we heard from Kate, making sure that any activity that comes from the city or the destination or industry towards the event is through those connections of hashtags and tagging in, or listings through, and having really good digital presence as well as that physical activation presence. So I think that was a part of the answer, and just being able to recognise that the event operator is often so caught up in making sure that their product development and their delivery and service promise to their ticket purchaser and to their talent or the event itself is such a core focus that they find it hard to find time to look left and right around how it's going to go across the city and across the precincts. So being proactive on that and being a partner in it with them and saying, I'll take the load on some of this stuff, just give me your info, is really important.
Perfect. Thanks, Demelza. One now from Queensland Country. I'll hand it to you, Kate. As an event organiser, how can I best connect to accommodation and tourism operators to encourage them to get involved?
What we've done in the past is anyone that's really close to any of our venues, we actually do a face-to-face with them. So they're really comfortable because we know that they're going to be advocates for our event, and we promote them so that they're so close to us as well. Other than that, we actually run the Visitor Information Centre here at Council too. So we've got a hit list of every accommodation, and we've got them by themes as well. So we can do, if it's an outdoor event and people want to do camping, we can actually show where the flow on of that can be, things like that we do. Otherwise, we actually talk to a lot of our local providers as well, accommodation providers, to see if they want to do a deal or a package. And that could be simply something like putting the Toowoomba Violet, buying a heap of pots of those and putting them out for everyone that comes to town. We've got someone else that does a late checkout every Sunday during Carnival. So it's just those little things that can set you above and a bit different, and letting us know that you're doing that. We can then share that out to everyone.
Thanks, Kate. That was fantastic. I've just been given the note to wrap it up. So we've got a fair few more questions that have come through, so we will answer those individually, and thanks for sharing them. But before we do finish, I just want to say a very big thank you to Richard, Demelza and Kate for generously sharing their time today. Your experience and such practical real-world insights has been incredibly valued, and to hear your perspectives, we really appreciate you being part of today's session. Thank you all to everyone who joined us online and for the thoughtful questions and engagement throughout. As mentioned, a recording of today's webinar will be available to download, and we'll share that link along with the slide pack with you later today. As I mentioned, if we didn't get quite to your question today, we will follow up individually, so you'll hear from us shortly. But thank you again for spending your time with us, and we look forward to staying connected and continuing the conversation. Good afternoon.